A couple of announcements. First, I should say who I am. I'm Sarah Martin. I'm the chapter president this year. And then I wanted to let everyone know that if you are planning on taking the CFRE exam this year, or if you're just curious about what being a certified fundraising executive is all about, we are putting together a study group. Edna will be organizing that, and we will have some more information in our next newsletter about like the where and the when and the what's with that. And then we're also looking for someone with some social media skills and a love of organizing and maybe a passion for spreadsheets to join the chapter's communication committee. If you are interested in that, please, you can reach out to me and I will put my contact in the chat later. Or if you know someone who might be interested in doing that, we would like some help with our social media. So for introductions, our meeting today is sponsored by Javelina, where you can bring your story to life and change the world. I am very pleased to introduce our speaker, Catherine Alonzo, who is the CEO and founding partner of Javelina, where she helps organizations and individuals create change in their communities. Catherine combines her political background with her passion for storytelling in the digital age. And I have to tell you, Catherine is an incredible storyteller. I had the privilege to get to know her a few years ago when I participated in She Leads, which is a women's leadership program that Catherine also founded because she's amazing. You can find out more about She Leads on the Arizona Foundation for Women's website. So Catherine was named the Athena Young Professional recipient of the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce and has been recognized for her business leadership by Arizona Business Magazine and Arizona Big Media and the Arizona Phoenix Business Journal. So Catherine is here today to talk to us about core values and how knowing your core values can help us fundraise for our own social change work. Catherine, welcome. You are muted.
Sorry, just unmuting myself. Thank you so much for that warm introduction and for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here. I see some really familiar faces, and it's really great to see you and meet you, those that I haven't had a chance to get to know before. And today, today we're going to dig into core values, which is my very, 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 very favorite topic. And I just absolutely love talking about core values and how they show up in our lives, which they do every single day. And I'm going to share a little bit of information, but then we're also going to do a bunch of activities. So we'll have you in breakouts and really give you the opportunity to explore your own core values. So I'll start off with just a little story about me, as Sarah set me up as a storyteller, just to tell you a little bit more about me. So when probably the most significant moment in my life happened at a time that I actually don't remember. When I was 6 months old, my older brother, Rory, passed away in an accident 3 weeks before his 3rd birthday. And, I don't remember him and I don't remember that happening. But what I do remember very clearly is growing up in a family that was grieving. And, I had nothing to compare it to at the time. So it wasn't really until adulthood and actually when a friend of ours, really, really close friends, lost their 8-month-old son to SIDS, was really when I sort of reflected on what my experience had been and what my family's experience had been and what grieving does to people. And what I've learned is that grieving and suffering creates this cage around what you think you're capable of and what the world will offer you. It can really shrink what you think is possible. And what I've really come to learn is that what I want to contribute my time on Earth to is helping figure out how to break out of that cage. And the way that I think that we can do that is by making the world more equitable and making the world kinder. And so for me, those two things are the lens through which I understand how I want to spend my time. How can I be helping bring kindness to the world, not only to other people, but also myself, because practicing self-kindness is not easy. And how can we make the world more equitable? And the way that I do that today is by leading Javelina. And I'm just going to shut my blind, so that light is bugging me. The sun will move soon. At Javelina, what we do is we work with all different kinds of organizations to create social and systemic change. And the way that we do that is by helping them elevate their story through branding, marketing, and messaging, and also organizing techniques. So really motivating people and mobilizing people around social change so that the organizations can expand their reach and deepen their impact. And it's my honor and my privilege to do it. And one of the things that we use all day, every day, it's a fundamental tool, not only in our company, but in our work with our clients, is core values. And that's why I'm here today. And that's why I've been able to have the privilege to talk to people about core values. And the more I do this work, the more I realize that this is the most powerful tool for creating change in your individual lives and also at an organizational level. So let's jump into it. So I am going to share my screen if I can. Is there any way I can be made co-host? That would be awesome.
Lori's on it.
Thank you.
Hold on one sec, sorry.
Sorry. Awesome. Alrighty. Are you guys looking at pictures of bathroom monitors right now or an orange screen?
Orange screen.
Orange screen, good. I was shopping for a bathroom vanity last night and that's my other screen. I'm like, that might be what you're looking at. Okay, so you're looking at orange screen, fantastic. So give me 1 second to get my notes up in front of me. Oops. All right, are you still looking at the orange welcome page?
Yes, and we see now share, yes.
There you go. Perfect. Wonderful. Okay, good. So if you don't have pen and paper nearby, you will want to grab pen and paper for this because there will hopefully be things that come up for you throughout this workshop that you'll want to note down. So if you don't have that, or if you want to take notes on your phone, that's absolutely fine too. So as I said, the reason that we're doing this today is because being able to articulate your own core values is really important for creating social change. And that's something I know to be true. Another thing I know to be true is that knowing what your core values are is actually it's difficult. We have them, you all have them right now, they exist within you. But figuring out what they are and being able to articulate them takes a lot of time and reflection. And it's a privilege, it is a distinct privilege to be able to have the time and the resources to reflect on what your core values are. And so the reason that this workshop even got developed is kind of realizing that as leaders, very rarely have we had the opportunity to really figure out how to tell the story of those core values. And that's the whole entire goal of our time today. And what we're going to do today is get some brainstorming going so that you can start to figure out what those might be for you. And if everyone joining us today, you'll all be at different starting points. Some of you will have a really clear idea and will be able to tell me, these are my 3 core values. And then some of you won't have thought about it at all, and there'll be everything in between. But the activities we're going to do today will help you refine and discover no matter what your starting point is. So a couple of things before we dig into activities that I want to share about core values. Really, the way to think about them is they shape how you do what you do. So each of you as individuals and as your leaders in your organizations will have an organizational purpose and mission, and you'll have a personal purpose and mission in life, whether you know how to tell that story or not, like that exists already. You're driven by a core purpose or a why. why you do what you do. Your core values really shape how you go about achieving that purpose and that mission. And there's a few things about core values. They are essential and timeless. This word core is really important. So you have a ton of values, lists and lists and lists of them. And then there's your core values. And really, I really encourage people to try and articulate it in as small a number as possible. If you have 2 core values, that's awesome. 3, you don't ever really want more than 5. There's a lot of studies that show that once you get over 4 of anything, people have a hard time holding that information in their head. And so the reason that you want to keep that small list is because when you have that small list of really clearly defined values, they become very, very distinctive for you and will help you, will serve as this guide and bench post for making huge decisions in your life. They really do, they are the guiding principles that define your approach. One of the most helpful things about core values is they help you figure out what to do in tough situations and how to make hard decisions. And they also define not only some of your hardest moments, but your best moments. And these are the things we're going to reflect on today. Today, what we're going to do is some detective work to think about situations where your core values have been at play so that you can discover what they are. The core values are most helpful when they're lasered in on what is truly important to you, which is why we're really always seeking to get down to that very short list. And there's a couple of things there's a couple of distinctions I want to make here when we're talking about core values. So there's your core values, which are these, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 very, very unique to you important concepts in your life. Then there's what we might call pay to play values. And pay to play values are what you might expect from in a generally decent situation, that at a very basic level, what you are going to expect from other people. And the pay to play values, I can sort of name the most common ones: integrity, respect, honesty, and communication. And I'll tell you, those 4 words were Enron's core values. So, sometimes when we list these words, they're kind of like these buzzwords that, yes, we want people to, and hopefully we expect from ourselves to conduct ourselves with honesty, respect, integrity, and good communication wherever we possibly can. Doesn't mean that one of those words can't be your core value, but when it is your core value, it means you go above and beyond the basic expectation. And then another distinction is an aspirational value. There is a distinction between your core value, which means it already exists within you, and an aspirational value, which is something that you seek to be more like. So I'll give an organizational example that comes up in our work all the time. So all the time, we will be with a group of individuals who are in a team or an organization, and the core value comes up of accountability. And then when you dig in, then they'll say accountability is really important to us as an organization. And then you'll say, okay, how often do you miss deadlines? Do you routinely as a team meet deadlines as a rule? Well, no, not always. Okay. Do you always as a team do what you were saying, do what you say you're going to do? And they'll say, oh, no, not always. Well, in that case, accountability is an aspirational value. If you're not acting that way already in your day-to-day life, it's not a core value, because if it was, you wouldn't tolerate it being violated that way. There is absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, it's great to have aspirational values, but being able to distinguish with how we are already acting in our day-to-day lives versus how we aspire to act is really important, particularly when you're talking about organizational values. And all of the activities we're going to do today work for individuals and teams. So you can certainly use these with your teams if they appeal to you. Okay, so we are going to now explore. So here's what we're going to do. I have 3 activities planned today. We'll see how the time goes because I want to make sure that we have time at the end for discussion. So we'll definitely do 2. And then if we have time, we'll do the 3rd. And if not, I'll share the 3rd and you guys can do them in your own time or in smaller groups after this. So what I'm going to do with each activity is, first of all, ask for a volunteer to demonstrate with me, and we'll go through it together in front of the group. And then we'll split you up into smaller groups, 2s or 3s, actually probably in 2s, in pairs, to then conduct the same activity that I do with my gracious volunteer in pairs. And what I'll say at the beginning is that these 2 or 3 activities that we're going to do are designed to shake up the snow globe. So if you imagine that your life, your personality, who you are as a person, exists within a snow globe, and each individual piece of snow is a clue as to who you are and how you became the person you are today. And what we're going to do with these activities is shake up the snow globe and get all the pieces flying and put names and words to them and essentially identify these clues as to what your core values are. So what you will hopefully come out of the end of today with on your piece of paper that you have nearby is a list of values that come up in these conversations. And from there, after today, you'll take that list and in extra exploration, which I'll explain, you'll be able to whittle that list down, learn more about it, and really start to tease out what the core values are. And so as you're sort of getting yourself in the right mindset for these activities, put your detective hat on. That really what you are looking for is little bits of morsels of information that are these clues as to what your core values are. And not only for yourself, but for each other as you are serving that role as a listener for other people. And you'll see more what I mean when I do the demonstration with my first volunteer. But every time in your conversations that you hear a values word, write it down, because those are the clues I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see everybody. Alrighty. So can I ask for a gracious volunteer to do my first activity with me?
I'll volunteer.
Jennifer?
Yeah.
Awesome. I wanted to make sure I located the right voice. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, Jennifer, what I want you to do is think of a pivotal moment in your life. So a pivotal moment can be a big thing or a small thing that for whatever reason, everything that came before it was different from everything that came after it, whether it changed the trajectory of your life or how you see the world. So when you think of a pivotal moment in your life, what is one of the first things that comes to mind?
The birth of my children.
Okay, and tell me a little bit, well, let's start with the birth of your first child, because the easier with a pivotal moment if you laser in as much as you can on the moment.
Sure.
So what was the moment that really created change for you with the birth of your first child?
I think finding out I was pregnant.
Okay. And what happened? Talk me through it.
Well, it took a long time to get there, and didn't think we were going to be able to have kids. And so when I got pregnant, it was, and it progressed. It was a very joyful thing.
And when you say it progressed, tell me more.
Oh, well, it didn't end in, as sometimes pregnancies end, in miscarriage, or, the pregnancy progressed and everything was healthy. And so that was a life changer, right? We're going to have a baby, and now everything's going to look a little different.
And how did it look different?
Oh my gosh. Your whole future looks different, right? Like now like half my income is going to this child, and I have to save for the future, and there's a piece of my heart walking around outside of me. And I mean, it changes what is important to me. It's less about me, it's more about others. I think women often grow in relationship and connection with others. My thesis was about that, but that really hones it in a way that, I'm kind of a mother bear. So yeah, it just goes to the core of what I feel is my duty, to protect them, to instill in them things like integrity, compassion, and a sense of agency, doing something, getting things done that make the world a better place. It's kind of a long answer, but
No, that was great. It was really helpful. Thank you. And when you say, you're a mother bear, were you always a mother bear, or was becoming pregnant something that changed that for you?
no, definitely I was not always a mother bear. I was very much singularly focused, kind of very independent. My mom said I was very independent.
Got it. I see. So becoming pregnant really changed that feeling of independence more toward connection, I think.
Yeah, really, it did.
Yeah. And you said as the pregnancy progressed, did that feeling progress?
Yes, very much.
So I'm right in making the assumption that as motherhood has progressed, has that gotten stronger and stronger?
That's a loaded question. No, but no, it has. It has. It's certainly challenging. But yes, I still want to protect. I have dreams about, helping.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. It was really, I really admire you and appreciate you sharing with the group. And now throwing the question open to the group, as Jennifer was sharing her story, what values words did you hear her talk about in her story?
Integrity, compassion. I don't know. I love the way you said, there's a piece of my heart walking outside of my body, or something like that. That's a great way to put it.
Empathy.
Yeah.
I heard fierce love.
Say that again, sorry?
Fierce love.
Yes, love. A couple of people have offered in the chat: relationship, connection, protection, compassion, agency, passion, joy. Joy, certainly, that was the first word you said, was joy, joyful. So that's one that leapt out at me. And then protection and this mother bear idea, particularly because you talked about before being pregnant, you were independent. And then it kind of sounded like this light bulb moment that potentially, grew and progressed, but it really, there was a switch from being independent to really feeling the duty, use the word duty, the duty of protecting others. Duty really stood out to me.
That's interesting, because I had written down a few words that weren't those words.
And did any of those words?
Well, integrity, like I initially wrote that I feel that that's what guides my life: integrity, compassion, and agency, just a sense of getting something done. Like I can't just waffle and do nothing. But I didn't hear joyful, protective, and duty so much.
And oftentimes what I find with core values exploration is that folks will have a sense, they'll think integrity, compassion, agency, those are important. And then when they start to dig, they realize that yes, those are important, but the core value is a level deeper. That is the seed that sprouts those other values. So, for example, talking very hypothetically, you had said that, integrity and compassion and agency were important to you. Perhaps the seeds that those sprout from have something to do with duty and joy. And so it's what you really are you want to dig to that absolute core, because when you find the origin value, as it were, that's when you can really truly tap into it.
Thanks.
Okay, so what we're going to do then is I'm going to put you in pairs. Ori, do you want me to do that, or do you want to do that with the breakouts?
I'm happy to, if you want it in groups of 2.
Yeah, in groups of 2. And if we have an even number, you can use me or don't use me to get to an even number, basically.
Okay, it says if I do 9 breakout rooms, we'll have 2 to 3 participants per room. Is that okay?
It's better in pairs if you can.
Okay, hang on 1 second then. Well, okay, hang on a second.
Well, while you do that, I'm going to explain. So in your pairs, what you're going to do is exactly what Jennifer and I just did. Is one of you will share a pivotal moment and the other person will listen and ask questions to get them to dig a little deeper into their story if they need to. And then listen for every time you hear a values word, write it down and then discuss it backwards and forwards with them. And then you switch and then the other person will go. And you can, the most powerful part of this activity is the discussion. So you can thread backwards and forwards. Oftentimes people's stories inspire lessons in each other. So let's see, we're at 8:25. So we'll go ahead and give, let's do 10 minutes for this activity to give you a real time to dig in with each other. And then we'll come back at the end and reflect. So how was that? I'd love if a person or two would share about something that opened up for you or something that you heard in the conversation you had. Jenny.
Yeah, so we had a great conversation, Lynn Davis and I. And I think one of the kind of things that we recognized is how when you're in a vulnerable position or is when you realize your values, when you're not comfortable, because all of our values seem to come in moments where, we were experiencing something new or different. We talked a little bit about like international travel and parenthood, the pandemic. Are these like moments where you're vulnerable, and that's when you begin to identify what's really important to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Could I piggyback on what Jenny just said?
Please, Amy.
I find that to be so true in my life, and I think that the contrasts of what we don't feel comfortable with or don't like or can't do or something like that really sheds light on who we are. I love the contrasts. There's some kind of the best roadmaps for me anyway.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you give me an example of a contrast for you?
Well, I have had, I'll just go professional and light. I have had jobs when I was in school and younger that was more like widget making, and the contrast of widget making to the nonprofit sector with a purpose and a meaning. I just recoil anytime I think that I have to do something over and over and over and over again in any way. I know that that's not for me. So it's a light. It's like, ooh, you don't want to go down that road or that career path. Let's get back to something that feels a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. Okay, and let me ask you before we go into the second activity, 10 minutes for that group. Was it a little bit too long? Was it about right?
I think we could have probably done 8.
8 minutes?
I was going to say we could have gone longer, but
yeah.
We may not have managed our time because we only ended up being able to focus on me.
Right.
And I think, I don't know if folks were paired with folks you already knew, but it was, we kind of did the whole introduction and that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. So I think what we'll do for the next one is we'll do 8 minutes, which means we'll do one more activity rather than the 3, and then I'll share the other one with you so you can do that after the session. Okay, so I'm going to ask for another volunteer for the second activity. Oh, sorry, Amy.
There's another contrast. Some of us are very efficient with time and others of us are not.
Exactly. So who would like to volunteer for me for the second one? Edna? Wonderful. Thank you so much, Edna. All right, Edna, I would like you to think of a movie, a TV show, or a book that, or it can also be a type or like a genre of movie, TV, or book that you have had a very, very strong emotional reaction to in the past. And this can be at any point in your life. And usually for most people, there's something that clicked, you know, when I watched X, when I read X, and you're nodding. So tell me, what was that? What was it that you consumed, and what happened?
Yeah, it was when I was a freshman I was in high school, and I read Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And I went to Catholic school for undergraduate and high school. And the book, it's heavy, it's intense, it's not a cheerful book. Nonetheless, it's a book about redemption. And the end of it is brilliant. Dostoevsky really captures how there's hope, even in times of the deepest darkness.
And what did it change for you?
Yeah, what it did is it took me out of the traditional Catholic notions of, if you follow all the rules, you'll go to heaven and you're special if you're Catholic, to what I feel for me is much more realistic. And that is, we're all hurting, we're all suffering at some points in our life. And it's up to the community to help lift ourselves out of those points of suffering when we can. So it's not even about Catholicism, it's about the redemptive spirit we all have within us, whether we're Christian or not.
And what was the, when you said you had a really strong emotional reaction to it, it sounds like tell me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is the strong emotion you had was, despite the heavy material, was actually a positive reaction.
Right.
And how did that reaction feel for you at the time?
It was very healing. It was very consoling. You know, I don't want to give too much away if people want to read the book, but the end of the book actually takes place in the Siberian prison camp, which is cold and bitter and horrible. And within a moment in that prison camp, there's this beautiful redemptive moment of love between the main character, Raskolnikov, and the woman who he loves, and her name is Sonia. He is in the prison camp because he's been convicted of murder. She's been rejected by society because she's a prostitute. But there's a moment that they offer each other grace, and Dostoevsky calls it the inexhaustible resources of the heart.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Edna. And what values did folks hear as Edna was sharing this with us?
I heard a belief in redemption.
Hmm.
So I guess hope, but it's more than that. It's about belief and reconciliation and redemption.
Jenny shared on the chat hope and redemption, compassion. Hope was certainly one that stood out to me. You said the word community. You also talked about personal agency and the ability to lift ourselves up. And then healing. You talked about healing and the power of healing. Were there other words that folks heard? And do those words resonate with you, Edna?
Yeah, they still do, especially now. You bet. Yeah.
Are there any of those that were shared or that you said that sort of resonate with you the most strongly as, oh yeah, that might really be something that's super core for me?
You know, the idea of community, we're in the middle of this terrible pandemic, we're all feeling it, and yet doing a good deed or saying a kind word to someone, I found, has really lifted them up. And despite how heavy COVID is, we still have the human capacity to be in community with each other and lift each other up.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. And so I'm going to put you in pairs again, and exactly the same, do the same activity again. The question is, think of a movie, TV show, or book that you had a very strong emotional reaction to in the past, and it can be a really positive reaction like Edna's was, or a really negative one. The clue is something that you were crying or laughing hysterically at, and you were sort of taken aback by it. Like, where did that come from? For mine, it was watching Free Willy for the first time. And you know, what happened. And so share that with each other. And we're gonna, let's see, I definitely want to give time. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was working on the rooms. If you, are you working on the rooms too, or do you want me
No,
to do it?
if you could do that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we're all set. Okay.
I'm not good at rooming and talking at the same time. And so let's do actually a little bit less time, because I want to make sure we'll give time for at the end. So let's do 5 minutes, and it might not give you both ample time to go. And I apologize for that, but I want to make sure that we have time to reflect and close out at the end, and then hopefully create the space to continue these conversations afterwards. Hi, guys. Okay, so we just have a few minutes. So I'm going to do a quick wrap up, and then we'll debrief as a group, and then people can drop off when they need to. So sort of next steps, where to go from here. So I'm going to explain the activity that we didn't get time to do, if there are folks on here who want to do some more exploration. So the other activity is called personal choice. And what you do is you think of a personal decision you made for yourself in the last 18 months and why. And when you were explaining why, use 10 words or less. So in 10 words or less, explain why you made a personal decision for yourself in the last 18 months. And so an example might be, you know, that when COVID hit, I made the personal choice that I was no longer going to work on weekends, because it was the only thing, now that I'm in my house all the time, that separated the week from the weekend. And I needed that for me was a great kindness to myself, kindness being one of my core values. So that personal choice, what was it, and why did you make that decision? So from here, and you'll all be at different points in your values exploration. So some of you will have a big long list of values, and some of them resonate. And oftentimes after this workshop, people tell me that it was really great and things opened up for them, but they felt really overwhelmed and had no idea where to take it from here. And I'll tell you this, discovering your values, your core values, is a lifelong journey. It isn't something that you'll get done by the end of the day. Please don't anybody write on their to-do list, finalize core values. That is like not a thing. And so the way to take it from here is to keep having conversations, either with members of this group or members of your family. Keep talking about it. It's in the talking about it that the exploration comes up. What you might have found today is that other people will hear your values words before you hear them. And so having this conversation with people and asking them, what did you hear? And then writing down those concepts. And then from there, let's say you have a list of like 10, keep going through the exercises. Use those 3 exercises, pivotal moment, movie, TV show, and personal choice, to litmus test. You know, well, that was, you know, when I watched Free Willy, I like cried my eyes out. What was that about? You know, do one of these values fit? And you keep refining it and testing it. And then when you are challenged in your daily life, which, let's be honest, all of us are at the moment, all the time, think, what do this list of values tell me about what I should do here? And slowly you'll start to get a clearer picture about what your core values are. And then there's a next step, but that's a whole other workshop in itself. So hopefully I'll come back in the future and do that with you guys. So we're right at 9. If folks have to jump off, please do that. Thank you so much for your time today. If folks want to hang out and debrief and reflect, then I'm happy to hang out for a couple minutes.